time of decline. So Aurangzeb was the greatest Mughal ruler. He was the most pious. He ruled for the longest. But look at the rule of the rest of them. Azam Shah ruled from 1707 to 1707. That means he ruled for a few weeks, right? And then only a few years here. 1712 to 1713, hardly a year. 13 to 19, then 19 to 19, 19 to 19, a few weeks or a few months each. And then, so it's a time of turmoil and political chaos.
That's civil war and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Forcing them out, right?
exactly, yeah. So it's, in dynasties what happens is, there's a lot of family fighting because, the brothers want to rule and then the brothers fight each other and then cousins fight, and then uncles. So it gets very messy. So there's always chaos and fighting and...
Like so.
Yeah, so that's how it is in all empires, any dynastic empire. So this is a great, so the Mughal Empire was really ridiculous. And if you look at, another thing you look at the names. Azam Shah, Bahadur Shah, Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan means the king of the world. Shah means king, Jahan is the whole existence. Muhammad Shah, Ahmad Shah Bahadur, Alamgir also means the ruler of the entire world. So they had these grandiose names. So you can see the Muslim world, at the time we were into names. The ruler of the world, this grandiose Rafi or Darajat, the highest ranks and things like that. But we're ruling for a few weeks and we're hardly controlling anything. There's a Persian joke, it's a piece of poetry. They say, Hukumat Shah-e Alam is lal kila tapalam, az lal kila tapalam, which means the kingdom of the ruler of the world. Shah Alam was the king was the Mughal ruler. His name means ruler of the world. Shah Alam. And they made a poem that the Hukuma, the kingdom of Shah Alam, the king of the world, is from the Red Fort to Palam, which is a neighborhood of Delhi. It's basically a neighborhood in Delhi, not even a whole city. So the ruler of the world rules over a neighborhood, and his name is ruler of the world, Shah Alam. Because the Mughals weren't, at this time, they're not controlling, there are people rebelling, and so they're just controlling Delhi and parts of India. So anyway, it's a great slide to show you the Muslim world is in a time of decline. And with that, we'll take our first break. So, any questions during the break? We can do that. Feel free to stretch. There's a refreshment station for tea and coffee. Restrooms down the hall.
So you meant.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So now we're going to switch gears entirely. Forget about history, forget about the Mongols, the Turks, forget about the Ottomans. Now let's come back to reading books and texts. So I always give an introduction. Unfortunately, you have to give this introduction because our literacy has gone down as Muslim students of Muslim tradition. So there are different ways of studying and learning. There's Western style, Eastern styles, methods of learning and education. In the Islamic tradition, you had learning was matan-based or text-based, right? So Muslim scholars, they compiled various mutun or texts, and this is in Arabic. You have matan, and the plural is mutun. Okay, a matan is a short text compiled by a scholar on a certain topic, relaying, the state of knowledge, and whatever they're writing about. It could be a poem, it could be a short text, in prose. It could be a commentary, it could be a book of hadith. So some of the texts became famous and became widely used. So then, generally, Muslim scholars, what they did was they would study the same text, or there would be certain texts that were repeated. So this became like you can say like a CV or resume. So scholars, they study a certain text if you want to study, for instance, Uṣūl al-Hadith, for instance. So you would go through certain texts. You might go through a poem like Bayquniya. You might go through Muqaddimah of Ibn Salah. So there are certain texts that you go through, and then once you study them, you master them, then you add that to your resume. How do you add that to your resume? It's something called ijaza. So the scholar, you have a certificate where a scholar certifies or gives a shahada, a testimony this person studied this book with me. And sometimes they'll add like who that teacher studied with the whole chain of narrators. Sometimes you don't. But anyway, so matan-based learning was very, very important, and it still is in the Muslim world. In the West, we don't learn like that. In the West, we emphasize concepts and we emphasize comprehension. So, and we compile textbooks and they always change. So that's a different way of learning. There are advantages to both. Both are equally important. But in this particular institute, we're trying to emphasize, we're trying to get our students to be literate in Muslim tradition. So here we're emphasizing text-based learning. We're trying to combine both approaches. So a matan is a traditional text, okay? So there's, okay, 3 things you need to ask when you study a text, right? Now this is the text, al-Fawzul Kabir. The number 1, the first question you ask is it a text? Is it a traditional text, matan? And these are the 3 M's or the 3 memes, right? So when you study a text, first of all, you have to figure out, is it a text at all? Because a matan is supposed to be something that's concise, and something that's readable, and even sometimes memorizable, right? So if you have an encyclopedia that's huge, right, that's like 12 volumes, that's not a matan. Like Itqan fi Ulum al-Quran of Suyuti is not a matan, it's an encyclopedia. It's 3 massive volumes, it has all this information. You can't really memorize it, or you can refer to it, but to study it from beginning to end, you can't. So first thing is you need to establish whatever you're studying, is it a matan? The second question you ask, is it mu'tabar? First, is it matan? Second, is it mu'tabar? What does that mean? Is it reliable? Is it something that's relied upon? Mu'tabar means something that people read, something that's reliable. If you get a book, somebody gives you a book, a small book on, something on Tafsīr, and it's written by Ibn Fulan, and, someone you never heard of. You need to figure out, is it worth your time to read this, right? So not everything written out there is worth your time. So mu'tabar is very important. So if you study any discipline, you can ask the scholars, okay, I want to learn this science. I want to learn mantiq, logic. I want to learn fiqh. I want to learn Shafi'i fiqh. I want to learn Uṣūl fiqh. And the scholars who know that, they'll tell you, okay, these are the books you need to read, or these are the suggestions, like a syllabus, and you follow that. So mu'tabar. Third thing, is it concise, right? Mukhtasar. So matan, mu'tabar, mukhtasar. Is it concise? In other words, like I said, itqan fi ulum al-Quran. If you start reading that, you'll always get lost because it's not meant to be read like that. Yes?
Isn't mukhtasar the word usually for an abridgment of a large
Yes,
text?
also. But here I'm not using it like that. Here we're using it just to show you, okay, is it concise? Is it something small? Is it something readable, right? Because as a student, you need to, have goals in mind. You need to study something and finish it, right? So you can't, if you pick a book, imagine picking a book that's 5,000 pages. When are you going to finish that? Chances are in your whole lifetime you won't. So you always want to do things that are doable. You pick goals that are doable. So mukhtasar is an important consideration, especially when you're pressed for time. So these are 3 things that you ask about text, and our text passes all 3. Now, what are the benefits of using classical text? Why are we studying al-Fawzul Kabir of Shah Waliullah? Why not just, give you the principles of tafsir? Why can't I just give you number 1, number 2, number 3, all the rules of tafsir or the principles of tafsir? I can, but this is very important because it provides a common platform of study. That's one benefit. Because now, you could go, you're living here, but you don't know where you're going to end up. Some of our parents grew up in another part of the world. They never imagined that they would be living in New Jersey or wherever we're from one day, or their descendants would be here. So, anywhere you go in the Muslim world, if you studied the same mutun, you can go there and you can fit in. You can say, I've studied Sahih Bukhari, I've studied Baiquni, I've studied Tuhfatul Atfal, I've studied this, and you can find a role in those communities. And you can interact with other scholars. So it provides a common platform. That's one benefit. Standard curriculum of study, that's kind of related to that. It kind of gives you like a curriculum, what to do, how to study, where to go next. Also leads to standardized terminology and vernacular. You can never have a fully standardized vernacular, but it leads to, if everyone's using different words all the time, like, there's so many words in English that mean so many different things, like the word reform. Reform could be a horrible meaning, and some people are using they're not even Muslim. Their iman is suspect. But I use it to describe Shah Waliullah, and so I'm using it in a different sense. So some words are so loaded, when everyone's not on the same page with the terminology, then you can't communicate very well. Then communication breaks down, and there's a lot of problems that develop. So studying the same text, at least everyone's on the same page. You can discuss ideas and get solutions, right? It provides for stepping stone stages of learning. So now, in this class, from now until Ramadan, all of you should have a goal. I'm going to study this book, Al-Fawzul Kabir, and you're going to have a good introduction to Shah Waliullah, and you're going to get develop a blueprint for understanding Quran. And now, after you're done, you're free to go wherever you want. Now you can progress in your learning. Maybe the next thing you can study is, some small book of Tafsīr, and kind of apply this there. So it gives you like these stepping stones. Or you can study the Muqaddimah of Uṣūl al-Tafsīr of Ibn Taymiyyah. So, this gives you like a system, right? So that's very, very important. Otherwise, it's chaos. And also it helps organize the study of each discipline. So scholars have their own recommended curricula. In Hadith, these are beginner texts, advanced texts, intermediate texts, and grammar. This is what you should study. So this is all very, very important, and that's how scholars had always learned Islam. And we need to continue the same. Part of the tragedy of Muslims in America is that, yes, here in America, we always emphasize original thinking, which is great, and academic learning, which I believe in too. And you can see my style is kind of like that too. But at the same time, you can't neglect this, because we're raising Muslims who don't even know what Bukhari is, don't know what Bayquni is, they don't know what these various texts are. And how can you progress in your understanding when you don't even know the basic references or the basic mutun or texts that are studied? Yes?
Yeah, well, American Muslims, a lot of us who haven't been exposed to a lot of different texts, we think that people actually figured all of this out, and without any without any pathway to that knowledge. We just think that, because this is how we think in America,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. So people think, everyone wants to figure out for themselves, and then they read these books and they think, they forget that this is a whole system that people went through to. Every great scholar, the thing is, people misunderstand, are you going to be bound by the text, or do you use those texts? So I'm not a firm proponent of, I'm not that rigid when it comes to text. I think you always have to think about things. But if you look at any great thinker, and that's what I kind of tried to introduce to you, Shah Waliullah was an original thinker. But he studied text. He went through a whole curriculum of study. So you should go through text, and then feel free to disagree. Feel free to develop your own ideas, but go through the text, right? So even someone like Ibn Taymiyyah did original ijtihad. He was the original thinker. 600 years, we've never seen someone of his like. He's someone unparalleled in Muslim history. But he studied Hanbali texts. He studied all the texts out there. So he went through that, he studied them, and then once you study them and you develop your own thinking, no problem. Then you can write your own text. So it's very, very important to study mutun. And hopefully, and also some other benefits, it advances the understanding of each discipline, because now, a text is designed to take you from this point to this point, and then you can go to another point. So it also promotes research and ijtihad. When you study these texts, you look at the understandings of other scholars and their insights and their research, and you can build upon that. So Al-Fawzul Kabir is a great book of research. It's a great book of thinking where Shah Waliullah is able to coin his ideas from his years of experience learning Islam. So you can build upon his research and then develop some things further. Every book can be developed further. So there's a great saying, let me just say that, and then I'll take questions. Man hafidh al-mutun faza fil funun. Whoever memorizes the text, or you can translate also as whoever masters the text. Faza fil funun, has mastered the discipline. So this is really the key to, mastering any discipline, is to memorize the text if you can, or at least master it, right? Okay, yes.
Is there any evidence that it's more virtuous to do memorization?
No, I mean, virtuous, the word virtuous implies a religious quality, so no one has a right to say that unless it's in the Quran or in the Sunnah. That's the only way we can declare something virtuous. These are tools. Now we're studying methodological tools to learn certain things. So we can't bring that discourse here as more virtuous. But you can see what's more beneficial based upon the experience of various teachers. So every teacher might have his own take. Is it better to memorize or better to understand? I don't have an answer on that. I think memorization was emphasized in the past. It's not as important today as it was. That's one thing. So I really believe, in the past, memorization was much more important. Now, not so. For someone to spend his lifetime to memorize Sahih Bukhari, right? There are people that do that. Not a whole lot, but people still do that. It's probably far more beneficial to understand Sahih Bukhari in our times, because that memorization was important in the era of Tadween, when you had to there was scarcity of paper and books and resources, right? And also the books weren't written down and solidified yet. But at the same time, it's very important also, memorization is what separates serious students from less serious students. Yesterday we were teaching Tajweed, so in Tajweed I use that example. You should memorize key bits of information in small text. You don't have to memorize the entire text. But you definitely, if you're a serious student, you have to memorize certain things. So, for instance, in Tajweed, you're teaching Tajweed, how many of you can tell me the 6 letters of Idhar? Or the 15 letters of Ikhfa? I mean, the one who memorized it can do it. So, can you do the 15 letters of Ikhfa for me? MashaAllah. Those are 15 letters. Each letter begins with the letter of Ikhfa. The rest of you are thinking about it, right? So you don't have to memorize. But this brother memorized it. Now, if he has to teach it in a masjid, he'll never forget it. And he just gave me those 15 letters. What about the 6 letters of Idhar? There you go. Hamzun faha'un thumma aynun ha'un muhmalatani thumma ghaynun kha'. These are great little lines you memorize. They're not a lot, so if you memorize them, that really puts you in a different level. So there are some things you should memorize. Memorizing the 7 fuqaha of Medina, memorizing the great. So scholars, they made these abiyat, these verses, these couplets for you to memorize, that kind of solidifies your understanding, so you never have to think about it. So there's still a role to memorization, but not the way it used to be. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't have to memorize this book or entire text, but you should memorize key pieces of information. And children, it also depends on your age. At our age, we're adult learners, right? We don't have time to memorize, so memorization is not that important for us, and we just can't do it. We should do bits and pieces. But someone like my son Zaid, or someone young like that, they should be memorizing. Mm-hmm. If you have you're starting out with someone who's young, 5 years old, 6 years old, now you need to emphasize memorizing, because kids can do it. And then they have the rest of their life to understand. So at that age, you emphasize memorization more than comprehension, and then they'll get it, right? Yes.
How did you translate that little couplet?
Yeah, whoever memorizes the text excels in the discipline. Yeah. What is what? The translation? Whoever memorizes the text excels in that discipline. Okay. Okay. Here's some terminology. So a matan is a primary text. A sharh is a commentary. So what scholars did, so you have a matan, a primary text, and then some scholars came and they made commentaries. They just took that text and they just explained it. So they wrote another text just as an explanation of that. So in our tradition, there are a lot of books that are primary books and commentaries. You have to distinguish that. Some people pick up commentary, just start reading that as a original text. You have to know the original text and know the commentary. Commentaries are never as important as original text. That's the other thing. A lot of commentaries don't get it right. So in fact, most commentaries get it wrong, unfortunately. Most commentaries mess up the original text. So you always have to understand the original text and then use the commentaries to help you. But the commentaries are not the primary text. Just keep that in mind. And then what scholars did, and this is part of the decline. We talked about the decline of the Ottomans and the Mughals. Same thing, you have decline of scholarship. So then there's a tertiary text called Hashiyah. So Hashiyah is where you have a text with a commentary, and then scholars, they add tertiary, just points on the side. It becomes a Hashiyah. It's a tertiary commentary.
It's called Bahr also.
Oh, Bahar? Okay. So then there are a lot of famous Hashiyat. Hashiyat ibn Abidin. Hashiyat this, Hashiyat that. So if you see, generally when you see a lot of commentaries out there or Hashiyat, it's a sign of decline. That means scholars aren't doing original thinking and writing original books. That's a fact nobody wants to admit, but it's true. When you have primary texts that are like people are writing original texts, as a sign of intellectual flourishing and people are thinking and contributing. And when because our scholarship was like that, and then there was a time period where there was stagnation, where all scholars did was just write commentary after commentary, then hashiyah, then just debate the commentaries. So those are secondary and tertiary. Just keep that in mind. Okay.
So the Hashiyah, is all of that considered?
Hashiyah is a type of commentary in a sense, but hashiyah generally is used where there's side notes or footnotes. Like we would say footnotes in our books today. So what scholars did, so in that time they would write the text in the middle, right? And then they would write the commentary generally on the bottom of that text. So it would be half the page text, half the page commentary. Then the hashiyat are very small, so they would put them on the side of the same. So then people would take the book. So hashiyat were originally just like the notes of certain scholars. So like a scholar is studying a text with the commentary, he puts his own notes there. If that scholar is famous and he dies, his students grab his books. And they're like, you know what? I got the original notes of my teacher. And then they would publish them. So a lot of these are just published by students as the notes of teachers, right? So, they have a role, they're important, but they're not primary text. Keep that in mind. Okay? Anyone else? Okay, with that, let's finish the muqaddimah. It's just a page, and then we'll call it a day, inshallah. So, this is the muqaddimah of this book. So we're beginning, as I mentioned, whenever you see this on the side, reading the text, we're going to be reading the book directly. So at the end of the class, we're always going to be doing that. So we're going to read the muqaddimah today. I gave out some folders with, so I emailed the PDF to everyone, so you have the PDF. That's what we're going to rely upon. I don't have the Arabic book that we'll be reading. I gave out some copies of the muqaddimah in the first class for those who are here. I have one extra one here. Is there any sister that doesn't have one? Okay, so just I'll give it to you. The rest of you can, if you don't have one, read along with someone else. I also have it on the screen for now. But you can make it a point to maybe, when I'll tell you what we'll be reading next, you can print out those pages from the PDF of the book. Yes?
One question, maybe a side point. I know that before the modern eras, there were often variants of different texts, and you would have to have someone to go, in the translation houses to make sure that you're accounting for all
manuscripts.
The
Yeah, they call manuscripts.
So, was there a process like that for this text, or
Yeah,
was
every
this
text has that process.
commonly accepted?
Yeah, so every text has a process of looking at additions and stuff and manuscripts. So al-Fawz al-Kabir is no exception. So if you look in the beginning of al-Fawz al-Kabir, so generally in Arabic books, in matans, what happens is, al-Fawz al-Kabir is an exception because it was written in Persian, right? So this is a translation by someone who's still alive. So it doesn't apply here because the person is alive. But in the beginning of every Arabic book, they always describe what manuscript they used, what library it was in, whether it's a Damascus library or in Turkey. And then they always generally they'll have like a photocopy of the page of the original. And then sometimes they'll say, okay, we utilize 3 different manuscripts, analyze the differences, and this is what my research was. So that process there always. And that's what a good text, edition of a text has in the beginning. You can't just read, you can't write a text and just start reading it without mentioning what the manuscript is, because there are versions sometimes.
Even Taymiyyah's famous fatwa, like, how much, like, it didn't cause a whole bunch of confusion. A lot of, the turmoil that we see today because of a mistake in the manuscripts.
Yeah, I mean, the manuscript, they didn't have dots at some point, and then ink would run out, so they would use abbreviations. So these issues are always there. Alhamdulillah, this is a modern text. I mean, it's written not so modern, but the Arabic at least is modern. So, okay, Bismillah. So we're going to read Muqaddimatul Kitab. So let's see. I have it on the screen here. I know it's very small, but most of you have it, so I'm not going to zoom in. So what did we say about the Muqaddimah? Like we read the first paragraph, just up until where it says Amma Ba'd, right? So we read up to Amma Ba'd, and we spent quite some time, and we learned a lot of things. So I was trying to teach you how to analyze and read, right? So what are some of the things that we learned from just his preamble? That's the preamble prior to Amma Ba'd. Yes.
The Shaykh, he instead of just going with the standard Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah, he did a tafsir of those phrases, and he just, in a beautiful poetic sort of way.
Sure. Excellent. And what are some of the ideas? What did he? Yes, without Yeah. So there's a lot of expression of humility, just generally how Arabic writers write. وَعَلَى أَحْقَرَ الْأُمَّةِ, so on and so forth. And then you talked about the Quran, right? The blessing of Quran. That was what he was emphasizing, right? Okay. Okay, so let's start from Amma Ba'd. Okay, so who's going to be a reader today? Yeah, sure. So read, I'll give you the first paragraph, and then you can switch up. Amma Ba'd, that paragraph. And I'll tell you when to stop, and then I'll translate. So the way I'll be doing it, so this is an advanced class. We'll be reading the Arabic, not the English. English is there on page 3 of this book. So if you intend to buy the book, you want to grab it, you can. But we're not going to be looking at the English directly. I don't want you to read along in the English. I want you to get used to the Arabic. That's what's going to make you a serious student. And then you can read the English to look it up and think about it and put your note. So read the Arabic. We'll be stopping sentence by sentence. I'll be giving you the translation. You write it in your own words. Okay? And then you can go back to the Arabic. That's how you're going to learn this text. Okay, first line. Amma ba'du. Okay. Okay, good. So this is the opening. So he says, Amma ba'd, as to what proceeds. Fayaqul, he says. Who says? Al-Faqir, the needy one. Waliullah, son of Abdur Rahim. And then he makes a dua, may Allah, envelop him with his graces, right? So a lot of times the books will begin, Yaqul, with the name of the author and colon. So just like telling you this is the author beginning his book, right? So from here all we see is, again, Al-Faqir, he refers to himself using some humble language. And his name, Waliullah, son of Abdur Rahim. So his name is Waliullah, son of Abdur Rahim. Some people think that Waliullah was a title. His name was something else, but his name was Waliullah, right? And we'll look at his biography probably next week. And his father's name was Abdur Rahim. Abdur Rahim was a great scholar too. Okay, so that's the opening, right? So now how does he begin? Yeah, Lamma. Kitabihil Majid. Okay, so he said, since Fatahallahu alayya, since Allah opened for me, since Allah opened for me, Baban, what is Baban? A door. Min, from, a door to, or a door from. Faham, what's faham? Understanding. Kitabihil Majid, his glorious book, right? His magnificent book. So we'll be translating, it'll be very literal. So that's what you're going to be writing down. And then later you think about it, you can revise your own translation. So since Allah opened for me a door into understanding his magnificent book. So now he's saying, he's trying to express, look, Allah opened for me and made me understand some things that I didn't understand before. Okay, continue.
خطر ببالي أن أجمع
أقيد
وأقيد بعض النقاط النافعة التي تنفع الأصحاب في رسالة مختصرة.
Very good. So he said, خطر ببالي. Khatara means it occurred to my mind. Bibali. That's an expression. It occurred to my mind. Khatara bibali. And ajma, that I gather, wa uqayyid, and put together or restrict. So it occurred to my mind that I gather ba'd, some. What's nukat, from nukta? Points. Nukat is the plural of nukta. So that I gather some points. Nafi'a, the adjective comes after the noun in Arabic. Nafi'a means what? Beneficial. Some beneficial points. So it occurred to my mind that I gather some beneficial points. Allati, those that will tanfa'ul ashab, that will benefit the companions. And he benefit the student. Fi, in risala. Risala is a short treatise. Mukhtasara, condensed. So in a short condensed treatise. So it occurred to my mind to put together some thoughts, the beneficial points in a short text, short treatise. Okay, continue.
والمرجو من لطف الله الذي لا انتهاء له أن يفتح لطلبة العلم بمجرد فهم هذه القواعد شارعا واسعا في فهم معاني كتاب الله.
Okay, so where are we? Okay. Yeah. وَالْمَرْجُوُ مِنْ لُطْفِ اللَّهِ الَّذِي لَا انْتَهَى لَهُ. I hope, so he's hoping that from the grace of Allah that has no limit, and يَفْتَحْ لِطَلَبَةِ الْعِلْمِ, that he opens, يَفْتَحْ is Allah, and I hope that for Allah from his grace opens لِطَلَبَةِ الْعِلْمِ, to the students of knowledge, right? طلبة العلم, students of knowledge. بمجرد فهم هذه القواعد. Mujarrad means by only understanding these principles. So I hope that Allah opens up for students of knowledge by understanding these principles. Which principles? The one He's going to write for you. شارعا واسعا في فهم معاني كتاب الله. A wide road, right? Wide path. Road, Sharia means road. A wide road in understanding the meanings of the Book of Allah. So he's hoping that even students, by reading these points, will be able to develop a great way of understanding the meanings of the Book of Allah. Right? Okay, continue. بحيث
لو صرفوا أمرهم في مطالعة التفاسير.
Okay. Keep going.
والقراءة على المفسرين على أنهم
أقل قليل
في هذا الزمان لم تتحصل لهم هذه الفوائد بهذا الضبط والربط.
Okay, good. So he says, so he makes a bold claim now. He says, بحيث لو صرفوا عمرهم في مطالعة التفسير. If they were to spend, so he's talking about the students now. If they were to spend صرفوا عمرهم, Umar is their life, right? Like in Urdu we have Umar too. If they were to spend their lives in the study of tafsīr, many tafsīr, the study of many books of tafsīr, مطالعة التفسير, تفاسير, والقراءة على المفسرين, and reading to the scholars of tafsir, mufassirin, reading to them, reading books to them. على أنهم, recognize in fact, هم أقل قليل في هذا الزمان. There are very few of them in our times that really understand the book. Mufassirin are always very few. He's saying that in his time. There are very few. He said, "Lam tatahassal lahum hadhihi al-fawaid." These benefits will not they will not be able to attain these benefits with this type of precision and harmony. There's a bold claim. He says these points I summarize. Even if you were to spend a lifetime reading many books of tafsir and reading to many scholars, you might not attain these benefits that are laid out for you in these small books. So you can see from that, you can agree or disagree. That's a different thing. I want you to be comfortable in, the ability to disagree. You might, but you don't have the right to say that yet. You have to read this whole book. Once you read the whole book, think about it. At the end, you can come back to this idea. You know what? Was he right? And that's something you should keep in your mind. And if you feel, you know what, it's not that beneficial, that's probably a little exaggeration. You can get these points by reading books. You're free to say that, only after you read the book. Okay. So he says that he summarized something great that would be very hard to reach without going through these principles. That should spark your interest. You really want to see what he said. Okay. Okay, continue. Sammaytuha. I have named it. So now he's telling you the name of the book. I have named this book. So in the Muqaddamah, scholars give you why they wrote the book and the name of the book and stuff. What's the name? Sammaytuha B. B is like with. Al-Fawz al-Kabir fi Uṣūl al-Tafsīr. We mentioned the title already. This is the name of the book. Okay. Yeah, and he says tawfiq is only for Allah. On Him I rely. وَهُوَ حَسْبِي. He is sufficient for me. وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلِ. And the best disposer of my affairs. So in the end he says, and it's Allah that determines success, right? Tawfiq. Okay. So that's the opening. So you can give an idea. He's very confident. He's bold. He summarized many things for us. And then the next page, and now he tells you how the book is divided, and we're done. Okay, who wants to read? Let's switch up. Any sister wants to read? Okay, Maz.
ومقاصد هذه الرسالة
منحصرة منحصرة
في 5 أبواب.
Okay, so maqasid means what? Purposes, right? It's maqsad is purpose, maqasid is aims, like plural. Maqasid hadhihi risala, this treatise. So the aims of this treatise, what's munhasiratun? What does that mean? That's the predicate of the sentence. Anyone know what that means?
It's brought together.
Yeah, it's contained within. So the aims or the goals of this treatise are contained in khamsat abwab, 5 what?
5 chapters.
Chapters. Abwab literally means doors, but that's how that's a chapter. Bab is a chapter or door. So the book is divided into 5 chapters. Now he's going to give you the 5 chapters. Now you're going to get a good outline of what the book is about. Okay, al-Bab al-Awwal. What's the first chapter?
الباب الأول في بيان العلوم الخمسة التي يدل عليها
يدل
عليها القرآن العظيم نصا وكان